on the quiz tomorrow, you're going to factor by solving, factor using the quadratic formula, and then you have to just determine, I guess we'll say, the value of the discriminant and tell me the types of solutions. So in this first set, when I tell you to factor by solving, that means they will factor nice and pretty. The first thing you need to do is make sure everything is where? On the same side. I like the left, so we'll go with the left. So what do I have to do first? Subtract the 14. Good. So I'm going to subtract the 14 from both sides. So I have 2x squared plus 2x minus 12 equals 0. Everybody got that? Now, if I'm telling you to factor by solving, that means this will factor. So as we factor, what's the first thing we look for? GCF. Is there a GCF? Yes. What is it? 2. Okay, so we bring the 2 out in front, divide everything by 2. So I'm left with x squared, good. Plus x minus 6 equals 0. So now this is just the basic trinomial, and I say, okay, what times what will give me negative 6 when I multiply, but a positive 1 when I add?
3 and
okay, positive 3 and negative 2. What goes in the front of each parenthesis? Whoops, I was thinking about my next question. Thank you. What goes in the front of each parenthesis? X. That's what I was thinking ahead to. So x and x. Everybody with me? Yeah. Now you set each piece equal to 0. Do you see how there's that 2 out in front? Mm-hmm. So then right here, 2 equals 0. Is that a true statement? Will 2 ever equal 0? No, so just cross it out. Then I say x plus 3 equals 0. How do I solve that? Subtract 3 from both sides. So I get x equals what number? Negative 3, good. And then my other one is x minus 2 equals 0. So what do? Add 2 to both sides. And I get x equals 2. How can I figure out right now that those two answers are solutions? I can plug them back in, and it'll satisfy the equation. For your factoring by solving, because they're going to tell you you're going to get 2 answers that you can plug back in and check. Yes, sir?
What about the square root thingy?
We're going to do that in a second. If it tells you to factor by solving, that just means it's going to factor. You don't have to use the quadratic formula. Yes, Dan?
So do we need to actually plug them back in, see if anything doesn't work, or just leave them?
You don't have to.
Okay.
But if you want to check to make sure your signs are right or something like that, you might want to. Yes, sir?
Could we have factored by grouping?
No, because there's only 3 terms. Once you scoot that 14 over, there's only 3 terms.
Oh yeah, because of the 2.
You can't factor on both sides. Like you can't group with an equal sign in the middle. You got to figure that out somehow to scoot it. All right, I can factor by solving. I'm telling you that. So I have to get everything where? On the same side. So what do I do with that 5? Okay, we're going to subtract it. When I subtract that 5, guys, what does the left-hand side look like? 2x squared minus 3x minus 5. Like, we can't combine 2x squared or negative x with negative 5. None of them are like terms, so we just write them all out. So now I'm going to say, okay, here is my new trinomial. Is there a GCF? No. Is the a term, the number in front of x squared, is it 1? No. So it's a different way of factoring. Do you guys remember how to do that with our different way of factoring? What do I do with the 2 and the negative 5? Multiply them. I'm going to go like this. 2 times negative 5 equals what? What kind of 10? Good. So I'm looking for factors of negative 10 that multiply to give me negative 10, but add to give me what? Negative 3. What are those 2 numbers? Negative 5, perfect, and positive 2. What's negative 5 times positive 2? Negative 10. And then what's negative 5 plus 2? Negative 3. Now our a term is not 1. So I've told you a couple different ways you can do this. I have my x in the front. I'm just going to put 2 underneath. Whatever that a term is, I'm just going to stick it underneath. Could you put it in the front? Yes, and then you have to factor out the GCF. Either way it'll work. But I look and I say 5 divided by 2. Does that turn out to be anything pretty?
No.
So then 2 becomes what?
The A term.
The a term, the coefficient. Then I look over here on the right side and I say 2 divided by 2. What does that equal? 1. So that just simplifies nice and pretty. Now you guys factored it. You have to solve it. In order to solve, what do you do with each parenthesis? Set it equal to 0. So 2x minus 5 equals 0. And over here, x plus 1 equals 0. So on the left-hand side, how do I get x all by itself? Add 5. Good. So I have 2x equals 5. Then what? Divide by 2. So I have x equals 5 over 2. That's a fraction. Is that a big deal? No. And then on the right-hand side, this one, what would I have? Minus 1 from both sides. So x equals negative 1. Yep.
Why did you divide? When it says x minus 5 and x plus 2 in brackets, why did you divide by 2?
Oh, here? Because the a term, this one right here, is not 1.
Oh, okay.
Whenever it's not 1, you have to just put it underneath each number and then see how it can simplify. All right, we good? Okay, let's scoot on over here. I can solve by factoring. What do I have to do first? Let's get that 2 on the other side. So I have x squared plus 2x minus 3 equals 0. So I'm looking for factors. Well, look, what's my a term? 1. So this is easy. I look for factors of negative 3 that multiply to give me negative 3, but add to give me a positive 2. What are the only factors of 3? 3 and 1. Good. So now we got to figure out our signs. I want a positive 2 when I combine them. Negative 1. Good, William. Negative 1, positive 3. And since my a term is 1, what goes in the front of each parenthesis? X and x. Good. Now I factored it. I have to solve it. How do you solve? Set each equal to 0. So x minus 1 equals 0. X plus 3 equals 0. On the left-hand side, what do I do? Add 1. Perfect. So I get x equals 1. And on the right-hand side, what do I do? Subtract 3. Good. So x equals negative 3. How do we feel about factoring by solving? Easy. Okay, that's going to, when it says factor by solving, that means you don't have to think, does it factor? Yes, it will. And I will work the problems out 15 times to make sure that they factor nicely, I promise. All right, then we're going to have 2 that say solve using the quadratic formula. If you don't know it, guys, you need to get this in your head. Write this down. X equals negative b plus or minus b squared, square root of, sorry, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. The hardest part of this is making sure all of your numbers are filled in correctly. So if I look here, I'm going to start right here and I'm going to say, okay, what's my a, what's my b, what's my c? Can I tell you that right this second? Why not? What? Tell me? You got to bring over the 10. Everything needs to be on the left-hand side. So I'm going to add 10 to both sides. So my new polynomial that I'm looking at is 2x squared minus 7x minus what? 3. Good. Now you guys can tell me what a, b, and c is. Make sure it goes x squared, x, constant. So in this case, my a would be 2, my b would be negative 7, and c would be negative 3. Anybody have any questions on where I got those numbers? Yes? No? Maybe? Okay, so now let's fill in our quadratic formula and make sure we have everything correct. I have negative b, so I'm going to say negative 7. Some of you are going to say, can I just write positive 7? Of course. But I always write the negative just to make sure I don't forget anything. So now I have plus minus the square root of, what's my b? Negative 7. Let's put it in parentheses because anytime we square a number, what should you get as your answer? Positive, right? Put it in parentheses so you don't forget that you're saying negative 7 times negative 7. So I have b squared minus 4 times, what's my a? 2. What's my c? Negative 3. Good. All over 2 times 2. Now here is a great opportunity. You guys have everything filled in. You need to make sure. You need to check. You need to say, do I have all my numbers right? Most importantly, your signs. Your signs are the most important thing. Are we good? Okay, so now let's just take a little second here and simplify. Negative 7 is what? 7. Plus or minus, well, what is negative 7 squared? 49. Minus, what is negative 4 times 2? Negative 8. And then negative 8 times negative 3. That's going to give me positive 24. Good. All over, 2 times 2 is? 4. Questions? Guys, notice if you have 2 negatives right here, it's going to make a what? Positive. So just pay attention to that. So now we can simplify a little bit more. We have 7 plus or minus. Well, what's underneath my radical? What's 49 plus 24? 73? Okay. Over what? 4. Can you guys break down 73? No. Nothing's going to go into 73. So I look here and I say, okay, well, can I simplify it all? Can 7 and 4 divide into each other evenly? No. So there's your answer. How many answers do I have there? 2. Because I have 7 plus root 73 over 4 and 7 minus root 73 over 4.
Do you want us to write them out separately?
Yeah, no. If you can leave them just like plus minus, that's fine. Okay? All right, let's scoot on over. This is solving using the quadratic formula. So what's the first thing I have to do? Get them all on the same side. So I'm going to add 4 and I'm going to add 7x. Guys, when I rewrite this, where am I putting the 7x and where am I putting the 4? Plus 7x, good. Plus 4. We have to have everything. Remember, it goes x squared, x, and a constant. So now you can identify your a, b, and c. What's my a? 9. What's my b? 7. And what's my c? 4. Okay, the numbers might get big here, but you're fine. So I'm going to fill in, I need negative 7 plus or minus the square root. What is b?
7.
Okay, 7 squared minus 4 times what's a? 9. And then what's c? That's a 9. All over 2 times what? Good. So I'm going to just simplify. Take your times. Negative 7 plus or minus the square root of. What is 7 squared? 49. Good. Now, what's 4 times 9 times 4?
144. Minus 144.
Good. Thank you. We had a problem like this similar when I was here. What was that, Monday? 18. Good. Very good. So now I'm going to say, okay, let's simplify a little more. Negative 7 plus or minus. Guys, what is 49 minus 144? You can go up here, say 144 minus 49. Negative 96? No. Negative 95.
Oh, I was close.
You were close, honey, but we need to be just exact on these.
I would have worked it out.
Okay, good. Well, thank you. All right, what do we notice here? I see a negative under the square root. What does that mean when you think of that?
No real solution.
It's imaginary. There's no real solutions. So I'm going to rewrite this just to give you another view of it as negative 1 and 95. Do you see how I separated it just so I can remind myself, oh, I have to make sure I take out that I, the negative 1. Can I break 95 down? Let's just check. Does 2 go into 95? No. 3? How do you know?
Yes.
How do you know if 3 goes into a number? We talked about this. With 9 plus 5 is? Correct. 14 is not divisible by 3, so no. What about 4? What about 5? Yes. So 5 goes into 9. How many times? Once, with how many left over? 4. So it'd be 40. How many times does 4 go into 45? 9. Sorry. How many times does 5 go into 45? 9 times. So it's 5 and 19. Does that break down anymore? No. So we're good. 95 doesn't break down. So I'm going to rewrite this as negative 7 plus or minus. What is the square root of negative 1? I. Put that I out in front. 95 stays underneath.
Imaginary.
It is imaginary. Good. Very good.
Wait, do we still need to know if it's two answers?
Yes, we're going to talk about that in just a second. But you already know that. No, you already know that. Don't yikes. You already know. If something's imaginary, is it real?
No.
Do some of you still have imaginary friends?
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. That means you have a good imagination. I'm not sure if my girls do or not. I sometimes think that they do.
What do they think each other are imaginary people?
Well, they talk to each other and they call each other like different names and stuff. That
What
it's
do
like
they
a
think
it's like a twin thing. I don't know. It's weird.
Like, they're
Yes. My teacher's going over some stuff. I gotta learn it. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Okay, thanks. All right. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do?
Add the x squared.
Add x squared to both sides. I probably should make this number smaller. Change this. Let's change this.
They're beautiful numbers.
They are, but they're gonna be a lot to work with. Change that to plus 1. This will be easier to work with. So what is 8 plus 1? You have 9x squared plus 4x plus 1 equals 0. If you ask me where I got the 1 from, I just changed it. So just pay attention to that. So you guys can tell me what A, B, and C are. A is,
9,
B is,
4,
C is
1.
1. So, I have negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 9 squared minus, oh, you're right. My goodness, what am I thinking? Keep me on my toes, Hayden, good job. 4 squared minus 4 times 9 times 1, yes? All over, Christian, 2 times.
2 times 9.
Good. Okay, just take your time now. Negative 4 plus or minus. What's 4 squared?
16.
So 16 minus what?
36.
Good. Over 18. We good? Okay. Simplify a little more. Negative 4 plus or minus. What's 16 minus 36? Negative 20. Good. I see a negative, guys. What does that make me think of? The i's. Good. If you want to rewrite it as negative 1 and square root 20, that's fine. But we have to think now. Can I break down 20?
Yes.
Yeah. What does 20 break down into?
4 and 5.
Look. Negative 1 and then 4 times 5. You don't have to write it out like this, but you're going to have to simplify, so make sure you're paying attention. Square root of negative 1 becomes our imaginary. What's the square root of 4?
2.
So this really looks like this. Negative 4 plus or minus 2i root 5 over 18. Does anybody have any questions about how I just got there?
Yeah.
Hmm?
Would you do the 2?
I put it with the I out in front. Right here. Went right here. Anything you can take out square root, put it in front. See how I broke 20 down into 4 and 5? Perfect square and a non-perfect square. Now, there's a couple ways you could do this next part. I suggest you write this out separately, just for a second, so you can see if anything simplifies. Sometimes you'll see that 18 and 4 can simplify, but you may not see the 2 or something like that. So write it out as 2 separate little fractions so you can see. In the first fraction, 4 over 18, can I simplify that?
Yes.
If I divide top and bottom by 2, what am I left with?
2 over 9.
2 over 9, okay. Plus or minus, what about 2 and 18?
Yeah.
What does that become?
I and
Just I over 9. Now, if you want to put them back together, that's perfectly fine because the denominators are the same. Or you can leave it like that. You can write it this way, or you can write it this way.
what happens if like that 4 term can can reduce, but like the I.
Okay, good question. Say that first number 4 was a 6. Right? 6 and 18. If it was 6 over 18, what would that give you? 1 over 3. And then you had this as your second, then you would write it as two separate, you'd have to separate it, two separate fractions. Yeah. But either way, guys, you can write, since they both have the same denominator, you can write it either way. But you have to make sure that you simplify. Yes, sir?
What if like the right side doesn't go in at all? Like you just leave it the same?
Well, that's what Valerie's just saying. Like, just for, this is not the answer, but just pretend this was the answer. 6 over 18 plus or minus 2i. Hypothetically speaking, all right, when you simplify this, you would get 1/3 plus or minus I root 5 over 9.
So like what if the 2 was a 7? Like you just leave it like.
Yeah, say it was a 7. Say it was, yeah. Always try and simplify if you can. Since there are two fractions, say it was like this, just leave it like that. That's fine. That's why I say sometimes if you notice that it'll at least go into 1, just separate it so you can make sure. Yes, ma'am?
Why does the negative on the 4 like carry down?
Why did what?
Like the negative 4 in the beginning, so it's negative 4 plus or minus, like.
Oh, I just forgot it. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. My apologies. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. You're always so forgiving. All right, these numbers are going to be big too, but that's okay. We'll just work through it. How do I get this in standard form, ready to go? Okay, add 1 to both sides. So I have 8x squared plus 7x minus 14 equals 0. I'm not going to give you anything on the quiz that's numbers this gigantic, because that's not. I'm not trying to test you on do you know how to multiply. Hopefully, we're good to go there. So A equals 8, B equals 7, and C equals negative 14. Agreed? Okay, so I have negative 7 plus or minus 7 squared minus 4 times 8 times negative 14. Gonna be big. It's okay. Over 2 times 8. Did I write all my numbers correctly? Yes? Okay. So we have negative 7 plus or minus. What's 7 squared? 49. And can somebody tell me real quick, is it positive or negative? Positive, because there's 2 negatives. So plus 448 over what? 16. Again, I'm not going to give you numbers this ginormous, so don't freak out. We have negative 7 plus or minus. What is 49 plus 448?
497.
497. We're just going to pretend that 497 is not going to break down. Don't worry about it.
I don't think so.
So I have a huge number underneath the radical. Is that okay? Yeah. Is there anything imaginary? No. So how many solutions do I have here? 2. Are they real? Yes. Guys, how do you know that they're real? Where do you look? What matters to make it real?
It has to be a number, like it can't be I.
Correct. Do you see? We're going to look right here underneath the square root. That's a positive number, right? So you know you're going to have 2 real solutions. They might be gross, but they're real. It's fine.
If it was negative, it would just be I.
Correct. So let's do these last 3, and then we're done. If you're going to find the value of the discriminant, somebody tell me what the discriminant is.
B squared minus 4ac.
B squared minus 4ac. So let's think about this for a second. B squared minus 4ac is where in the quadratic formula? Underneath the radical. So if you have a positive number when I evaluate this, no matter what it is, if it's positive, how many solutions do you have? 2 what? 2 real. If I have a 0, when I find this value out and it's 0, how many solutions do I have? 1. 1 real. Tell me if it's real. when I have a negative, what are two answers that I could give?
Imaginary.
I could say there's two imaginary solutions, or
Unreal? Or I don't know if that's a form.
think about it. I went from 2 real to 1 real. How many real solutions are there if it's imaginary? None. So you could tell me no real solutions, or you could tell me 2 imaginary solutions. Don't just tell me 1 or 2. I will take points off. I need to know that you understand that they're real or imaginary. So here, before I can evaluate the discriminant, what do I need to do? Bring the 7 over. Some of you will tell me that this is A, this is B, and this is C. That's not true. C is not -7. I'm going to add 7 to both sides. So I have 2x squared plus 9x plus 7 equals 0. Now you can tell me that this is A, this is B, and this is C. So when I find the value of the discriminant, I'm just going to say 9 squared minus 4 times A times C. Questions? All right, so what is 9 squared? 81. Then I have -4 times 2. -8. What is 8 times 7? 56. So I have 81 minus 56. Right now, you can tell me if this is real or not. If I subtract 81 and 56, do I get a positive number? Yeah. But I want to know the value of the discriminant. That means what is 81 minus 56?
25.
So there's the value. And then I want to know the type and number of solutions. You would tell me 2 real solutions. Does everyone understand how I expect you to answer these questions? I need to know the value. What does the discriminant equal? The b squared minus 4ac. And then what does that tell me about my solutions? So now I'm going to scoot over to this one. Do I have to do anything? No, everything's good to go. So my A term is 1, B is -4, and C is +4. So b squared minus 4ac. -4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4. What's -4 squared?
16.
What's -4 times 1 times 4?
-16.
What's -16 minus 16? Or 16 minus -16? There is the value of my discriminant. What does that tell me about my solutions?
1 real solution.
1 real solution. I need to know both things. I even put lines so you can see exactly what I'm asking you. We good? All right, and then the last one. Do I need to do anything?
Flip flop. 7x and 4.
Everybody look, do I need to do anything? Yes, you have to flip the 4 and the 7. This is not A, B, C. Remember, it has to go x squared, x, then your constant. So I'm going to rewrite this as 9x squared plus 7x plus 4 equals 0. So A is 9, B is 7, and C is 4. So my discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. So I have 7 squared minus 4 times 9 times 4. Same thing keeps coming up. What is 7 squared? 49. And what was 4 times 9 times 4?
-144.
You can already tell me what my solutions are.
Imaginary.
You can, okay, so what does that mean?
0 with 15.
You can say 0 real solutions. I'll take that as an answer. Or, what else can you tell me? 2 imaginary. Good. What is 49 minus 144?
-95.
-95. So on your quiz tomorrow, you'll have 2 that are solved by factoring. You'll have 2 find the value of the discriminant and tell me the types of solutions, and you'll have 2 quadratics. We just did 10 problems in 29 minutes, so you only have 6 tomorrow. You're going to have about 37, 38 minutes to get your quiz done. That's plenty of time.